Welcome to our series on Python coding questions. Today, we'll be looking into a Python program that is required to create this pattern. So first, I want to print the number 9 one time. Next, I want to print number 8 two times on the next line. Then I want to print number 7 three times on the third line and so on until I reach number 1, which will be printed 9 times. So we'll look at the various coding solutions possible for this programming question. So first is using a nested for loop. So I'm creating an outer for loop which will generate numbers in the range from 9 until 1, and I have to count down. So I'm specifying the step as -1. So essentially this will generate numbers 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 until 1. For every number, what I have to do, I have to print that number repeatedly for a given number of times. So when the number is 9, which is the first number, I have to print it one time. Then when the number is 8, which is the second number on the second line, I have to print it two times. So for that, I have created this expression 9 minus num plus 1. So for example, if your number is 9, so this will evaluate to 9 minus 9 plus 1, which is 1. So for repeating in the range 0, 1. So this for loop will just run one time, right? For the value 0 alone, because my end index is 1, it will just run for one time. So it will print 9, and I'm giving the end parameter as an empty string. We'll understand this when we go on to the subsequent numbers. Now, after printing 9 for one time, this for loop will exit, and then I'll print a new line, so that my cursor goes to the next line, because in the previous print I have specified my end as empty string. So this is essential for the cursor to move to the next line so that I can print the next number. Now what would happen? It would go to my outer for loop. So number would now be 9 minus 1, 8. Now this range, the inner loop's range would be 0, 9 minus 8 plus 1, which is 1 plus 1, 2. So my range function would generate values 0 and 1 because my end index is 2. So essentially 8 will get printed two times. Now when the first print will print 8, if I don't specify end as an empty string, what would happen? My default end parameter value for print function is /n, which is new line. So when the inner for loop gets executed the second time, 8 would essentially get printed on the next line, which is not what I want. I want all the 8s to be printed side by side. So that is why I have given the end parameter for this print function that is printing the number as empty string. So that get printed side by side. Then when I move on to number 7, I'm printing the new line. So this is the output that you would see for this code. So for every number from 9 to 1, I want to repeat it these many number of times, 9 minus num plus 1, to specify the upper index. So 9 get printed one time, 8 two times, 7 three times, and so on. Now the common mistake that you can make in this coding solution is, see, I have created a number using the range function 9, 0. But can you see I have not specified the step value as -1. So the default step value is 1. So what would happen in that case? My start index value would essentially be greater than the end index value, right? So this for loop would never get executed. It will not get executed even once, right? Because my start index becomes greater than the end index, which makes no sense. So what would be the output that you would get? Absolutely nothing, right? Because my outer for loop itself will never execute. So this we have to look out for. Now the second coding solution is using a nested while loop. So I'm creating a number variable, initializing it with value 9 because I want 9 printed first. Then I'm creating an outer while loop while number greater than 0. So this outer while loop will essentially be looping through numbers 9 to 1 by counting down. Then I'm creating a repeat variable for every number using the same expression 9 minus num plus 1, which I explained to you in the earlier coding solution. So while repeat is greater than 0, I want to repeat it for so many times. I have to print the number, definitely specify the end parameter as an empty string so that the number gets printed on the same line, and decrement the repeat so that my while loop terminates. The inner while loop should terminate. For example, if I take number 7, Now the repeat value would be 9 minus 7 plus 1, which is 2 plus 1, 3. So my repeat, while repeat is greater than 0, so repeat is currently 3, so it will print 7. Then repeat will get decremented by 1, so repeat will become 2. Come back to the inner while loop. So 2 is greater than 0, fine. It will get into the print function, print 7 again. Then repeat will get decremented by 1, so 2 minus 1 is 1. So repeat is 1 now. 1 is greater than 0, fine. So it will print 7 again. So 7 will get printed for the third time. Then repeat, again decremented by 1. So 1 minus 1 is now 0. So it go back to the inner while loop. Now 0 greater than 0, this condition will fail. So it will get out of the while loop, which means it will finish printing the same number for a repeated number of times, for a given number of times. After that, I have to use a empty print function to enable me to move the cursor to the next line so that I can start printing the next number. Now here again I have to decrement the value of number by 1 because currently when I'm starting, so for example we had taken 7, so currently the number is 7. Next I want it to become 6, so I have to decrement it by 1. So it will go back to the outer while loop, the condition will be satisfied and the whole process will take place repeatedly. This is the output screenshot for the code that I've explained now using the nested while loop. Now the common mistakes that can happen here are two types. One is when you're specifying the inner while loop for repeating the same number, if you miss giving decrementing the value of repeat, what would happen? The same number would, because for example when I'm entering the inner while loop for number 9, repeat will be 9 minus 9 plus 1, which is 1. So repeat 1 greater than 0, true, okay, it will print 9. Again it will come back to the inner loop. Again repeat would still be 1. So essentially 9 would keep on printing, okay, until you basically run out of memory. So this would be the output that you would get if you make this mistake. Another mistake is the same type but with the number variable. So I have done the repeat loop properly, but after printing the new line, if I don't decrement the num value, what would happen? I enter with number 9, I do the printing. After the print, I do not change the value of number 9. So again, num will be 9. So what would happen? The number 9 would keep printing one after another. Okay, so this is the kind of output you will get if you make this mistake. So we have to be very careful with decrementing the number and the repeat variables so that we get the proper output. Now the third solution is using a single for loop. This is a very simple solution, just a 2-line code. So again here I am creating a range from 9 to 1 by counting down. Alright. So what I'm doing here is I'm converting the number to a string. I'm using the repetition operator star. I'm printing it by these many times. The same expression that we have used for the previous two coding solutions. 9 minus num plus 1. For example, for when the number is 9, it will be 9 minus 9 plus 1. So string of num into 1. So num would be printed only one time. Next we go to 8. So 9 minus 8 plus 1 would be 2. So 8 into, so string 8 will be converted to a string and that will be printed 2 times. That is what we want. So this is a very simple solution and I don't have to specify the end parameter or anything because essentially the single statement will print whatever I want to print on subsequent lines. And the end is by default /n or new line. So automatically my cursor will keep moving on to the next line as and when my for loop is being executed. So this is the output screenshot for this code. Similarly, using a single while loop, I can again print using the string technique that I used previously with for loop. So here, since the while loop, we have to specify a variable number 9, variable number num, which is storing number 9. Then I create the while loop while num is greater than 0. Same logic, I convert the number to a string and repeat it by 9 minus num plus 1 times. After that, I have to remember to decrement the value of number by 1, definitely. Otherwise, only 9 will keep getting printed. Alright. So this is the output screenshot for this coding solution. So that's it for the coding problem for today. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Happy coding.